Hey, welcome to Lunch with Lee. Today we have someone we're interviewing, and he specializes in roofing and solar, and it's my friend Matt. So I'll bring him on. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good, man. What's up?
I'm doing great. Hey, today we're talking about mostly solar. We can do roofing another time, a whole nother time. But why? And we're specifically talking about Texas because I know every state has different rules and different incentives and everything else. Why is now a good time for solar?
Yeah. So a lot of this is an answer for Texas specifically, but it applies all over. So let's go to Texas specifically. So we've been seeing rates going up and up and getting more expensive for people. But what people don't take into account, it's not just the rate you have with your electric company that's going to be problematic. Okay. So let's say, for example, and people will relate to this. You pick your electric provider, and right now you're looking at like 13.7 cents per kilowatt, right? So great, I'm at 13.7. What you're not accounting for and what you have no control over is what are called delivery fees. So if you imagine your power is being cooked up at the power plant, in our area, Pasadena or Deer Park, wherever, and to get it from there to you, the end user, is not just like you flip the light switch on and the power's at your house, right? It doesn't happen by magic. You've got all this infrastructure it's got to go through to get to you, okay? That's all owned by CenterPoint, and you're being charged essentially shipping and handling to get that power from where it's being made to you. And it adds quite a bit to your bill. So most people that are signing up at 13, 14 cents, what they're really paying is 20. So why is now a good time to go solar? It's getting really expensive to power your home. Solar is much, much cheaper than that.
Cool. Well, if solar's cheaper, is there customers that this makes sense for and some of them that doesn't? What is the, when you look at a house or when you look at a roof, which one, how do you tell them what to do or what you would recommend?
Okay, so basically what I do is if someone reaches out to me and they want solar, I get a copy of their electric bill, and that's so I can look up their annual usage. That's step one. I got to know how much power are you using, because then we can give you an answer. Can I offset all of your power? And we can talk about this in a minute, but oftentimes I'm trying to offset a little bit more than their annual usage. And that's kind of how credits are built up with all the net metering stuff. But let's say, for example, the whole backside of your house faces south, which is the most efficient angle, right? South and west. And you have no trees around. Big open, say it's a gable roof, just a big open south facing plane. That's like a perfect roof for solar. Okay. Versus, let's go to another extreme. Your house is surrounded by trees and you have 25 different valleys on your roof, which means you have all these little chopped up roof planes. That's not going to be a very good house for solar, because ultimately it's like a surface area and efficiency equation as to is it going to be a good fit or not. So for most people, it makes a lot of sense, but for sure, for some people, I would advise them against it.
Sure. If you're not sure or you have trees, but what is a big tree versus a little tree? It's all a dichotomy kind of thing. How do you know? What's the best way to figure that out?
Get with the solar rep. So get with someone like me, and if it's not me, get with somebody else, and that's fine. I'm not offended. What we do, our software, it pulls up basically what's called like irradiance. So I can click a button and see which areas of your roof are getting really good sun coverage annually and which areas are really not going to be very efficient. And so it's a matter of placing the panels in those efficient areas and then seeing what we can actually accomplish for you. If that's going to net out to be a benefit, I recommend to people we do it. If it's going to be substantially more expensive for you to go solar, it still might be a fit, because further down the line, we're going to see electrical rates continue to rise. But quite honestly, in my experience, for a lot of people, it's about giving them upfront savings and predictability, right? So if I can save you money now, that's great. And the best part is rates continue to climb and climb and climb. Your price for your electricity stays the same. You're no longer participating in basically inflation as it relates to electrical prices.
Right. You're sort of self-sufficient. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, totally.
So when you get to the preppers,
Yeah.
with prepping, this is one way to kind of do that in a way,
That's right.
which is you're not reliant on the system, right? The man is not in charge of it. So what does it cost to have a study done?
No cost at all. So essentially our process is you'd reach out to me or to our company, Sunder Energy, and we'll put together that full design for you, no cost at all, right? If it's going to make sense, kind of my process. If it's going to make sense, at that point, I'll let you know, hey, this looks pretty good. Here's a photo of where the panels are going to go and kind of the offset of your electricity you can expect. And we're not going to go like in the nitty gritty over text as to all the details of the system and how it works. Because quite frankly, that really does need to be an in-person kind of explanation. But if it's going to be a fit, I'll let you know. And if it's not, I'll say, hey, like, there's no reason to waste each other's time here. Like, these are the details. If that's still interesting to you, let's go ahead and meet. But if not, it's fine.
Right. So what I'm hearing is I don't really even have to schedule an appointment for you to come to my house.
Nope.
How do you see the roof? How does that work? I know what.
Yeah, we have this cool software. We use it in roofing too. A little bit different, but the concept is the same. So basically, we have like an aerial view of the roof via the software. It's got artificial intelligence built in that'll measure out all the lines of the roof. It can identify where penetrations are, because obviously we can't put a panel right above one of your exhaust vents. Like, that wouldn't make sense. So we get basically a design of how we can lay the panels, and I just automatically place the panels, and I can turn some on, some off to get to where it's a good offset, and I'm utilizing the most efficient areas. So super easy. It's cool.
It's really cool. It's almost, we always say AI is kind of magic.
Yeah.
You just blink your eyes and you kind of know. It's Google Earth, satellite imagery, and magic happens.
Yep. One thing I wanted to make sure that I specify before I don't want to miss it. You mentioned like the preppers and all that kind of stuff, and that's totally legit, right? But one thing to know is if you have panels only and not battery backup, you do not have that insurance against blackouts. So in other words, if you have a solar panel system, you're still going to have a cheaper, more efficient, smarter way of getting your energy, and your cost is still fixed. So you're not going to be, you know what you're paying, and it's not going to continue to go up over time. But if the grid shuts down and you don't have batteries, those panels actually have to turn off too. And the reason is, if you're pushing excess energy out into the grid, and let's say there's a lineman nearby trying to repair that grid, that excess energy could shock or kill that person. So they have to cut off. So if you want to have true independence and kind of, which I think is great, I'm not particularly fond of like relying on, government systems necessarily for my existence, but to each their own. Batteries are going to make a lot of sense. And in that case, if power does go out, you're good to go. As you're using your battery at night, you drain it down a little bit, but that next morning it fills right back up because it charges during the day as your panels are receiving sunlight.
Right. So what I'm hearing is we've had our freezes and we've lost power. Hurricanes lose power. If you have those big chest freezers with a half a cow, or you have the breathing equipment, that you need to make it work, or my wife with her saltwater fish tanks where you don't want all these expensive fish to die.
I've done that before.
Yeah. The answer is this is one of those ways you could overcome, or maybe, we always hear about the natural gas backup, those generators.
Yep.
This is a way you may be able to do this, maybe even cheaper, right?
Yeah. And the natural gas generator is just another option. The way I explain battery backup to people that I think it's, in my opinion, the easiest way to grasp it. So solar panels, that's your way of being more efficient. And anytime you have efficiency, costs are going to reduce, right? So you have a cheaper bill that's predictable. You know what it is. The batteries are basically your insurance policy. So you're going to pay a little extra money to have the insurance that if power goes out, you're not affected.
Sure. And the batteries can power your whole house? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. So another good question. So essentially for most people, specifically for in Texas, the way I handle this, if I'm doing a design for a client in Florida, a little bit different, but let me explain. So what I try to walk people through is, what are you going to need if your power goes out? And for us here in Houston, specifically in Texas, we tend to lose power around freezes, right? I'm really not going to need my air conditioning unit to be cranking up if it's 15 degrees outside, right? So what I want to make sure I have access to, like I got 3 kids, I want to make sure they're entertained. It'd be nice to work a TV or charge a video game. I don't want to lose all my food, so I want to keep all my appliances running. And one battery will accomplish that for the average home. Now, take, for example, Florida, where my clients over there tend to lose power, is during hurricane season. And it's hot during hurricane season. 2 batteries are going to be necessary for that continuous, you could use your AC and all the stuff in your house with one battery, but you're going to drain it pretty quick, so it won't be very effective, right?
Okay.
Over there, and if someone wants full home backup, really 2 batteries is necessary, because all that drain on the battery, if you don't have 2, you're going to drain them down too quickly, and now you got to wait until they charge again, which is really, it's kind of defeating the purpose. Does that make sense? So partial home for most people in our Texas, Houston market, I think makes a lot of sense. 1 battery. If you want the whole thing, and specifically if you're a client of mine in Florida or some of those hotter climates, you're going to want to have 2.
Yeah, I mean, in Houston, we've gotten used to winter outages. Think back to Ike, Hurricane Ike. That hurricanes come too.
Sure,
that does exist.
Totally true.
It will happen in the future. We've had a lull in that.
Yeah,
but it's on a cycle. We all know that it's coming eventually, and it's the same thing, because we remember power being out for 2, 3, 4 days during that too, and it's hot. That's another thing. You have elderly parents or whatever, breathing stuff. It's important to have that.
Yeah, but it's important. That's why I explain it as an insurance policy, because most of these solar panel systems, there's 3 ways you can get solar. You pay cash for your system up front, and you'll have the 30% tax credit for doing that, 30% of the total price of your system. You finance it, so you have a monthly payment in order to pay off, because basically what you're doing is you're buying a power plant that's on your house, right? So you could finance it. Then we have what's called a power purchase agreement, which is a little bit different way of accomplishing it. But effectively, most people are going to choose finance. And in that case, if you finance your solar panel system and a whole home battery system, the economics aren't going to make sense anymore. It's like, oh, I'm paying more for my power now. Not really. You're paying less for your power. What you're paying more for is that insurance policy that protects you against blackouts. And that's why I explain it that way.
Sure. Yeah. But when you look at what a natural gas whole house generator costs, that out, suddenly it makes more sense, because that's not a cheap thing. If I have, and it probably difference between a 1,500 square foot house and a 6,000 square foot house.
Sure.
Where there's multiple AC units upstairs, downstairs, and you want to run everything.
Yeah.
Which I've run into customers that literally, because we talk about fireplaces, and when power goes out, some fireplaces need power to run. And then we'll be like, oh, don't worry, natural gas generator backup, 100% taken care of.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you could do that with enough batteries.
100%.
Cool. 100%. So when it comes to math, you talked about tax deductions, everything else.
Yeah.
This is when we get into the nitty gritty of, tax deductions, and our tax deductions go away, and every administration has different everything. What's going on right now, and how long is that actually going to last? Is that something that expires? How does that work?
So effectively, and let me preface, I'm not an accountant. You certainly don't want me to be your accountant. But the way it's working now, the way it was, let's say last year, it was 26% of the value of your system, the total price of the system. And then it was supposed to drop down to, I think, 22 and then 0. And if I'm screwing that up, sorry. What it is now, which is great, is they bumped it up to 30%, extended that 30 for 10 years. All right. So if you buy solar anytime in the next 10 years, you're going to get a 30% tax credit off of the total value of your system. After that, it tiers down again of the 26, 22, or 24, and then basically drops off.
Okay. So for the next 10 years, we have this tax deduction, assuming something doesn't change.
Correct.
Which, as soon as you take a breath, something changed. Someone new gets elected.
Yeah. I can't disagree with that.
Yeah. Who knows? The next president. I mean, this is not a political thing, but
I mean, they're going to run the exact opposite that their predecessor did. So
sure, yeah. Every time a president takes, stuff changes. You never know. Yeah. So take advantage of while it's there.
Yes.
Timing for getting solar panels. Is it smart to do this with a roof, or is this something that doesn't matter at all? Just put it on. What is your opinion?
Yeah, good question. So I work a lot in solar right now. That's been a lot of my focus, but I am still in roofing with Remedy Roofing. It's a perfect time to get solar. If you happen to be getting a new roof, good time to put solar on there, right? But we can still put solar on a house that has a roof that's a little bit older. And essentially what happens is, after we put together a design and the client decides, hey, I want to do this, this makes a lot of sense, which it's super logical. So most people will make that decision. We then go to what's called a site survey. So one of our technicians is going to go out, measure your roof, make sure everything is how it should be, and then we can install solar in a way that's not going to be damaging to the home, right? If that site survey comes back and says, hey, we can't put solar on this in the current roof condition, well, now we got to kind of pause that conversation and have a discussion with the homeowner. Hey, if we're going to put solar on this, we got to put a new roof on first. Pretty rare though, and this is interesting that people don't really consider. So when you put solar on the roof, effectively and we drill down into the structure of the home, right? So it's not, in fact, if you look up Hurricane Ian roof damage solar or something like that, right? You're going to see a bunch of pictures of half the roof missing, but the solar's still there.
Cool.
Right? And what it's actually doing is it's protecting that roof and kind of creating like an umbrella shade over it. So it might sound counterintuitive because we're drilling down into the roof, but realistically, installed correctly by a good company, you're honestly kind of protecting and preserving your roof in the areas that have the panels because it's not getting cooked by the sun all day.
Cool. Now, if you have solar panels currently, if you're changing out your roof, do you call a solar company to change your roof? Do you call a roofer to change it? Do roofers take them off and put them back? How does that work?
Yeah. So the way you should do it, you would effectively have two contractors. There is a caveat to that. We'll get into that in a second. Let's say you got solar through me, and I would hope you also get your roof through me, but let's say you got your roof through somebody else or whatever, right?
Sure.
And a hailstorm comes through and 4 or 5 years from now and tears your shingles apart. Believe it or not, the solar panels are really, really durable. So the odds of those getting damaged by the hail is pretty low. If it did, just like your roof in this case, it would be covered by the insurance claim, right? So you pay your deductible, you get the new roof. That includes covering the detach and reset of the panel system, which specifically if you're in the Texas market, like that's how it's going to happen. It's pretty rare people are replacing their roofs and not utilize an insurance claim, right? So, but essentially what you would want to do is make sure, specifically for the solar part of it, you need to have the contractor that put that solar on for you detach and reset it, because you wouldn't want some other company up there manipulating the panels. They might mess something up and now you voided your warranty. So important you contact whoever put those panels on for you if you need to have the roof replaced, so we can come in, or whoever that contractor was, and remove and replace the panels effectively.
Okay, you said it, which is warranties.
Yep.
How long do these things last? Do they start to not be as effective? I mean, at what point are they replaced? Because I'm assuming they don't last forever. How does that work?
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with, I guess kind of a downside. It's not really a downside, but just the reality. There is a very, very small percentage of degradation year over year, right? I mean, it's a sliver, but if from day one, your system at the end of year 25 is not going to be as efficient as it was in day one, right? That technology has gotten really good. So you're not losing a lot of efficiency, but you are losing some, and that's the reality. Warranty wise with us, and this is not, every contractor is going to have their different warranties. The pretty standard ones are labor, material, and you'll have like roof coverage to say, hey, where we're installing these panels, we're guaranteeing that the roof is not going to leak, right? You got 25 years on the material, 25 years on the labor, and 10 years on the roof. You're around roofs a lot like I am too. Let's be honest here. A workmanship related error is not going to manifest itself as a leak 5 years down the line. It's going to happen the first time it rains.
Yep.
First heavy rain, we're going to find it if we made a mistake. What we do in addition, though, which is pretty cool, is we actually guarantee your production.
Okay.
Right? So the total production we're telling you that system's going to make, that's got a guarantee on it too, which that's pretty rare in the industry. There's a couple companies out there that do it, but it's definitely not the majority. It's us and a few others.
Cool. Now, do these things require maintenance? I mean, if they get covered with pine needles, you would think they wouldn't get sun or leaves or anything else. Is there some kind of a maintenance or are they? I'm sure they don't blow themselves off. I don't know.
Yeah,
they do.
There's actually still solar panels powering satellites floating around in orbit, and they've got several inches of space dust on them.
Okay.
Still producing energy. What's interesting is the panels produce energy based off of light hitting them. And don't ask me to get into the engineering of this because frankly, I won't know it. But they work off of light, not heat, right? And I'll give you an example. In my neighborhood, if I look, I'm sitting in my office. If I look out my window, I'll see think we've got in my section of 20 something homes, like 10 or 12 houses with solar already. And there's also construction going on, like just beyond my field of view here. When they get kicking and going here, it's dusty, and I'll watch the panels just get like covered in dust. Right? It rains 2-3 days later, rinses them right off. It's not a problem. So
Same
to
thing with
answer your
leaves?
question specifically, like no maintenance.
Right. Same thing with leaves?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. I guess is there a slope to these things where leaves
Yeah.
fly off like snow?
Yeah. So like most roofs are going to have, you can see my arm here, you know, a pretty average pitch is about like that.
Sure.
5 on 12, right? Steeper, maybe here, right? If we put on a flat roof or we did like a ground mount system, we don't have the panels just sitting flat. We actually put a tilt to them. So they're receiving, there's like a good angle you want them at. And so we're going to angle them up, one, to make sure we're getting the effect of sunlight the way we need it. But that also allows debris and whatnot just to kind of float off in the event that there's a little bit of buildup on them.
Okay. My next thing I thought of with this is if we went north or Eastern, would ice, or because we heard like windmills having problems with ice or snow or anything else, is that an issue with solar panels?
Yeah, a little bit out of my knowledge base, but I was actually talking with a client of mine, a friend of mine who lives in Utah, and we went over design for his house. In preparation for that conversation, I read a few articles. I don't remember the exact math, so don't ask me to quote this, but essentially the answer is they work just fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't know, because obviously solar panels in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Here, if you had 5 feet of snow, I mean, I get their solar panels, so they probably heat up, so they melt stuff. But yeah, it's different environments, different.
Yeah.
You know,
Some of the best markets in the country for solar right now. I mean, of course, you got Texas, Florida, Arizona, New Mexico, California. But areas where solar is really beneficial as well is like Maine, New York, Virginia, Utah, Colorado, where specifically Utah, Colorado, you're getting a lot of snow out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of winding it down. What did I forget to ask you? What's a good question that I didn't ask?
Man, I think we covered all of it. I can't think of anything. We talked about kind of when's a good time. So realistically, it's always a good time to get solar. What I would tell people, and this is something that a lot of people get wrong. In fact, I made a little video on my Instagram this morning that talked about this. I don't have solar panels sitting in the back of my truck to put on your house today. And even if I did, there's a permitting process. We got to go through what's called a PTO, or permission to turn on process, with CenterPoint. So from the day you say I want solar to the day you're actually functional and you can use your system, oftentimes 4, 6, 8 weeks. When we get into summer and we're doing, we're selling 80 accounts in a week, right? Just in our little office, there's a lot of people going solar. That can extend even more because we have to wait on CenterPoint. So what I would advise most people is like, specifically, let's say you've got a great electric rate right now. And I would just tell you, hey, you have one of these unicorn electric rates. Well, it doesn't make sense right now. But your contract expires in 2 months and your bill is minimum going to double. And it's going to make a ton of sense to have solar then. We really should start the process now. Because by the time that system's functional and operational, you're already going to have that new crazy bill if you didn't have solar. So why wait and like bring all this financial pain onto yourself when there's a really easy way to avoid that?
Right. So the busy time for you is summer, correct?
Definitely the busiest, because that's when people have these ridiculous electric rates. They're being taken advantage of year round, but their usage is so much higher in the summer. So that's when they feel it in their checking account, right? So they're in a bit more pain during the summer. But for me, it's like, hey, the logic is still the same either way. Like, why wait till you're hurting? Like, if there's a better option, just get the better option now.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. We're trying to get people to service their fireplaces in the summer.
Yeah.
Because in the winter, our phones are blowing. There's no way.
I can't use this. It's like, well,
Something just popped in my head, but are there supply chain issues with solar? How does that work?
Yeah, there has been. So one thing that Sunder, which is who I work for directly, we're the largest privately owned solar dealer in the country. We're in 30 states. So I mentioned, I've got projects as far as West Texas. We're working on some in Florida, Utah, California, you name it. We're everywhere, right? We are partnered with Freedom Forever. We kind of have an exclusive agreement with them.
Mhm.
They take care of all of our installs, and they are the largest privately owned install company in the country. We, just like a lot of other companies, last summer we felt some of the supply chain issues. The good news is, though, kind of given our backing and just our size, we got around that pretty quick. So we actually make our own panel now. Freedom does. And one conversation they're having is there's potential that we'll actually be making them in the greater Houston area by like Q3 of this year. So, it's not set in stone yet, but that's something that realistically could happen just because there's a port right here. So just taking steps to cut down on that, making our own stuff, because we don't want to be dependent on a lot of those supply chain issues. And frankly, that's something that's, some of the smaller solar companies just can't do.
Understand. So, what's a good way if someone was interested in solar or roofing for that matter?
Yeah.
How should they contact you?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram. My Instagram is at LD Brew, BREW 3. I've got 3 boys and their initials are LD Brew. So very creative. Matt Brewster on Facebook. I'm not sure if you can put it on here as like a contact card, but feel free to text me, call me. My cell phone number is 561-531-1793. I still have my old Florida number. I'm sure I'll get blown up by telemarketers now, but those would be the ways to contact me, or via you, man. Like if you guys know Lee and like, crap, what was that guy's name? Because I know you mentioned a lot of other contractors watch this.
Sure.
And one thing we didn't touch on that I'd like to touch on real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have a really cool dealer program where companies that want to be able to offer solar as a new revenue stream or new part of their business, what we're able to do is we can plug you in to essentially our fulfillment side of the house. So you still own your company, you just now have a solar division of the company. And the way we help there is we're actually going to help you learn the best practices, build systems. We can help you recruit, train your sales guys. So any other contractors out there that have thought, hey, it would be cool to be able to offer solar, we have a solution for that. And it's pretty cool. Again, you still own all your stuff. It's not like you're now working underneath us or for us. That's not how it works. And a lot of people have been really excited about taking advantage of that.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. When this goes up on Facebook, just make sure, just comment.
Yeah.
Put your stuff underneath it. That way everybody sees it. We'll be good to go. So is that about it? Did I cover everything? I
think that's it. I'll think of something as soon as we get off here. I'm like, damn.
I know. Okay.
We'll do it again next time. We'll do a roofing one too.
There you go. All right. I appreciate it. And call Matt. Let him know if you have questions. Just, I don't care where you're at. Just call him. He's like me. They just want to help. Yep. So call him, give him a shout, and let us know. So I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely, man. See you later.